Have you paid specific attention to the last couple laughs on the laugh track?
No.
It's like, hold on, let's if I can get it to turn off. Hold on, just listen to the last one. Hold on. Just wait. Did you hear it? We got a remix going on over there.
Wild.
Yeah, that's the coffee button.
That's the coffee button.
So the most important button that we use is the entry music. And that's also the one that took the brunt of the coffee spill.
Yeah.
Welcome to the 2x2 podcast. I'm Danny.
I'm Riley.
And we are from Burlington Baptist Church. And I'm wearing pants.
Yep.
Before we get started. I like to qualify that I'm wearing pants. I'm excited about our new topic, which we'll get to in a minute. We'll go through the sponsors. No juice box today.
Yeah.
Dude, would it kill you just to have me some apple juices up here? Like just some regular apple juices. That's my favorite.
Yeah. I just don't have
I don't need any fancy saccharin-filled hugs or any of that other stuff, dude. Just give me some apple juice.
If I had more, I would.
This is a call out to anybody who wants to sponsor us with juice boxes.
Yeah, we have a beautiful corner where we store all the juice. You could fill that corner for us.
We got a special guest today.
Yeah. We do.
Yep. A real American hero.
A true American hero back there.
So Post Malone was in town.
Yeah.
And we were just discussing, you're drinking water out of your Post Malone cup.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
What happens if I scan that barcode?
I don't know. I haven't done it yet.
Oh, well, maybe we'll do that after the podcast.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody wants to.
Look, there's glasses right there. I just noticed that.
Nice.
That's fire.
And that is from Canes.
Yeah,
but it's not from
the concert, no.
The Post Malone Canes that he designed.
Yeah.
Which Tina and I went to when we were in Utah.
Yeah.
It's around Salt Lake. It's not in Salt Lake. It's where he's from, but pretty interesting. He's got a couple of his guitars, and Tina was commenting because the 3 guitars that are in that particular store, she goes, you have all 3 of those guitars, the exact ones. And I do. I have the exact ones that he has in there, which I didn't plan on. It just happened. The same colors and everything, which is odd. But a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
We are starting a new series today. We're going to go through our list of sponsors, which are just amazing. CrossFit, Northern Kentucky, located behind Tractor Supply. We seem to have a sponsorship cluster behind Tractor Supply, which is good. But reach out to those guys for all your fitness needs and goals. And also, they're always doing some kind of thing. They always do workouts on, like, July 4th. They did, like, a hero workout. Yeah. They call it Hero WOD, workout of the day. And Tina and I usually participate in a lot of those. Like, we do the Murph up there on, we talked about on here. So they're always doing stuff like that. Kentucky Olive, purveyors of fine oils, balsamics, cheeses, honey. Yeah. Always have honey, I found out. Jams, jellies.
All the good stuff.
Yeah, the real good stuff. Tattoo Tina's. 7 Shelby Street. No, put it up there, dude.
I'm trying not to get the noise.
It's an interesting, It's very soothing.
It is, yeah.
7 Shelby Street, Florence, Kentucky. Greatest tattoo artists and shop on the planet.
Yep.
In the universe.
Confirmed.
I think we've decided confirmed. And also, they have T-shirts.
Yeah.
Now, so go get your Tattoo Tina's T-shirt. They're actually pretty sweet. Like, it turned out really, 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 really good. And she's going to try to get some different colors. She's got black with white lettering. They sent us a couple of other, like types of shirts and designs and stuff. And the hoodies were actually pretty cool. The problem is I don't wear a hoodie.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of people do, so we might get some hoodies for the winter or whatever, but pretty neat. Serious Archery Products, Tough Head Broadheads. A lot of stuff. It's time to get ready.
Yeah.
It's July, mid-July. We're close to it. It's time to get ready for deer season. If you need arrows, you need broadheads, you need serious arrows and tough head broadheads. Brian's Barbershop. Again, the greatest barbershop in the history of the world. You wouldn't know that because you haven't been there.
I haven't been there in
2 years.
2.5 years.
So, but you used
3.
to come regularly, and your brother and father our regulars.
They'll be there tomorrow.
Oh yeah, that's right. They'll be there yesterday.
Yeah.
So, Steak and Shake, Brother Michael Buteau, owner of Steak and Shake, the cleanest, friendliest Steak and Shake. Yep. Again, in the known universe, also had a birthday this week.
Yeah.
So, Premier Fitness, wrestling, grappling, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, one-on-one wrestling. My man Mitch Casson does it all over there. He does it all. And our friends in AIG, which I think our friends at AIG, I know a few of them watch or catch some of our podcast episodes, we're probably going to dip in to a little bit of their territory in our next topic, I think. Just because of basically the truth of the Bible, right?
Yeah.
And some of the things that are going on. So, why don't you pray us up, and I'll introduce our new topic, our new series. And like I said, it should be interesting. We're probably going to get yelled at, potentially.
Yeah.
We're probably going to... We might get canceled. Somebody might try to do that.
Oh, boy. Oh, no. We got
canceled. Is that a thing?
I think it is, yeah. It still is, but I don't know.
Interesting.
It was really bad during COVID.
Yeah.
People getting canceled left and right.
I don't know. I feel like there are some people... We'll get to this.
Yeah. Anyways.
Pray stuff.
Yeah. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to come here and have this platform to talk. I just pray that in the upcoming weeks, as we're talking through this new topic, that we just lead in the right way, and that you speak through us in the way you need to, and that we educate some people on certain things, and that we speak the way you need us to. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
That's good stuff. Good prayer. It's important. Here's what I got. This is the first series of topics that is going to come with somewhat of a homework assignment for the listeners. The good news is it's actually a pretty fun homework assignment.
Yeah.
We've got a list of verses that are going to accompany this topic. So, without further ado, we are going to discuss in an open-ended. We don't know how many of these we're going to do. We're going to go till we get tired of doing it. Biblical morality versus political idealism. So, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I will pay attention to politics a decent amount.
Yeah.
But I'm more of what I would say like a political underground type person. I don't really watch a lot of news. We keep Fox News on one of the TVs at the shop, but it's the one behind me. I tend to look other places.
Yeah.
I feel like I have found some sources that I think are a little bit more reliable. One, and I'll just give you one. One is one that I listen to on Spotify a lot, and I'm pulling it up so I don't get the name of it wrong. But it's called Breaking Points.
Breaking Points.
And Breaking Points is basically a guy named Sauger and a lady named Crystal. Sauger is probably a little bit left of middle person, and she is probably a little bit right of middle person. However, when you listen to the news that they give you, you really wouldn't know that because they just kind of report news, which is really what I'm looking for. Like they'll say, here's this, they'll fact check some things. It's a relatively clean podcast, even though it's or news podcast, even though it's not really like regulated. They're on Spotify, so they can say whatever they want, but it's relatively clean. They keep it where you could listen to it with 11, 12-year-old kids and not feel bad. But anyway, I'm going to rambling on. I've also been reading the book, The Real Anthony Fauci, right, by Robert F. Kennedy, who is a Democrat, and he's running for the Democratic nomination, who is he seems to be, and again, this is just what I've read, common sense about some things, right? There are things that I do not agree on before everybody crucifies me about this. There are some stances that he has that I do not agree with. However, there are stances that he has that I do agree with.
Yeah.
Vaccine mandates, chemicals in our food, all of those things. I'm a big fisherman, so clean water, being able to eat the fish I catch out of local lakes and rivers and streams and stuff, that is important to me. So, and he was an environmental an environmental lawyer, I think, before. But anyway, I'm reading this book, and I realized that for me, my biblical worldview shapes a considerable amount of my political idealism.
Yeah.
And I somehow believe when I speak to people who I know, and I'm not saying they go to this church, they may or may not, but most of them don't, I'll just be honest, that have drastically politically different views than I have on certain things. So I want to kind of explore that. So as a 20-year-old who I think is probably going to vote in your first president or is eligible to vote in your first presidential election, what do you have to say about it as a younger person?
Oh boy.
Well, without getting us in a lot of trouble.
Well, I think that what I believe about the Bible influences what I believe about the world, right? And therefore, I should try and find someone who matches up best with what I believe as far as what the Bible says.
Yeah. So I used to think that way.
Yeah.
And I still do to a point, and let me explain. If I just took the presidential candidates,
Yeah.
and again, we're getting in some shaky ground here probably, but if you take just the presidential candidates, and I'll just go with the Republican candidates, right?
That's too much. There's literally 12.
Well, I know, but let's just go with let's just get the Cliff's Notes versions,
Okay.
right? You got Trump, DeSantis, Pence, Nikki Haley, and Tim Scott. We'll just go with those four. Or five, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah.
we'll just stick with those five for now. So you look at Trump and you go, for me, right, I like his policy. They seem to work for the economy and some other things. He's a jerk.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, Mike Pence, very Christian guy, very right. We'll call it evangelical right. However, do I believe that he's going to be in touch with the core of America, what I consider the working class people, the people who are from like out of college or out of a trade school to retirement age? I don't know. Doesn't seem like it, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to be very popular with that group. Nikki Haley, I just don't know a lot about her.
Yeah.
She hasn't raised a lot of money, whatever. And then again, we're just going through political candidates, and I'm just using the Ron DeSantis. Guy's my age. He seems to have done a lot of things in Florida. He took a lot of stances in Florida that I liked. Parents deciding what goes on with their kids in school.
Yeah.
Parents deciding if people could come in and do drag shows in elementary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those kind of things I stand with. Also, the COVID mandates and saying, look, we're going to open. We're going to figure this out. We're going to look at this data and do that. So, and I support that also because I felt like the American public should be in charge of their own health and healthcare. Poor communicator, right? I don't know much about his force policy, anything. Anyway, Tim Scott. So far, I like a lot about what that guy says. He used to be a pastor, right? And now he's a politician. He seems to put God first in most of all of the things, right? So I like that guy. But there's things I like about each of them. Except
And
like
then there's things that stand out as negative.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times it becomes a popularity contest also.
Yeah.
So, with me just throwing those five out there, I am measuring the things that are dead stops
Yeah.
for me in my life as biblical
Yeah.
worldview, right? So for me, those are things like abortion.
Yeah.
Those are things like kids, things that are having to do. I've got kids now that are in their 20s. I've got grandbabies and grandbabies on the way. I want to protect them. I want to be able to have them live in a kind of as close to what I grew up in as possible, while still giving the people in the United States the freedom to do as they choose. I think that's important. So, those are my priorities as a 47-year-old person with
Yeah.
grown children. Your priorities probably a little bit different, the things that you look at. So what are some of those? What are some of the things that you really kind of hit, like, pay attention?
Well, I mean, like,
Or you pay attention to?
Well, I was gonna say too. Part of mine would be the dead stop things. You cannot. I won't vote for somebody who has such a drastic belief on something that I have complete disagreement on.
Yeah.
Like abortion, for example, is
Yeah.
the big one, right?
And we'll get to Robert.
Yeah.
Robert Kennedy for me is a tough one, but
Yeah.
and I'll explain why. But go ahead.
Yeah.
That's it.
I lost the train of thought. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's
I'll
all
totally
good.
do that. So his for me is he's big on the vaccines and not being able to take them if you don't want them. He believes that the vaccines kids and again, this is just what he has stated. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with this. That the reason that those children get so many vaccines is because those vaccines were put on the list, the scheduled list, and it was like writing $1 billion check for each of those vaccines because every kid's going to get them. And he believes some of those are unnecessary.
Yeah.
Now, he's a big proponent of body autonomy because of that because of his dead solid stance on vaccines or non-vaccines, which means when he's asked about abortion, he doesn't want to vary from body autonomy. So he is, what he has said is pro-choice. If I'm going to be body autonomous with vaccines and me deciding what goes on in my body at all times, then I believe I have to, which I admire, even though I don't agree, because we talked about me with abortion and the death penalty.
Yeah.
Right. That was a very hard kind of struggle for me was if you believe in the sanctity of life, then you also then I also should believe in the sanctity of life that someone has done something wrong or has been accused of doing something wrong, and with the recent evidence of how many people are on death row with that shouldn't be there due to DNA evidence and all this other stuff, ended up being a good choice for me to go, yeah, maybe we shouldn't just put a fast lane in for, the death penalty.
Yeah.
So those are mine. You said abortion's yours. What was another one?
I'm just sifting through.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you're 20.
I know.
So there's got to be some
There's-
things. Well, what about college loan forgiveness? And that's not a big deal for you.
I mean, for me, it's like I feel like if you agreed to pay something before, you should probably pay it, and that's how I feel about that.
Well, sure.
I mean,
it's the United States government, right? So they're going to tack that money on someone.
that's
else.
what I'm saying, and I don't think other people should have to pay for what you agreed to pay for.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel about that. I mean,
The war in Ukraine's a big one for me.
yeah, that's big too. Yeah.
Also because it's hard because there are some people who don't share my belief on abortion that do share very, very adamantly my view on the war in Ukraine.
yeah,
Right. And again, I'm not going to try to influence anybody with what,
Yeah.
with what I particularly believe about that. But those are things that we struggle with. So the reason we bring that up, and that was a good one, the war in Ukraine is a good example of some, like, and I'll use him again, Robert Kennedy, dead set against fighting a proxy war in Ukraine.
yeah,
Okay. But doesn't share my opinion
Yeah.
on abortion, right? So that's a tough one. Do I have to concede? Ultimately, if you really look at it, before we get too far into the biblical homework that we're going to give people, you would probably just not vote, really,
yeah.
because I don't believe there's one
Candidate that can perfectly match what you want.
or that shares my opinion on the really important things that I believe are important, right? Again, Trump just treats people terribly.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? In my
yeah.
opinion, I mean,
I think so too.
he
yeah.
has a hard time when you're in politics and people are picking on you, which seems to be all
the time now. Yeah,
And again, there's some things that have happened I think that are unfair, that he's been unfairly accused of. We know about that kind of stuff. But, if someone tweets something mean to you, just, you have to fight the urge to tweet back.
To tweet back. And
something really, really
make it-
terrible.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of it's extremely funny.
Yeah. I mean, it's hilarious, but
Right.
at the same time, it's like,
Right. So
probably shouldn't act that way.
we're going to go through a couple of these things that we have looked up. So this is what we're going to call your homework. And I'm not texting anyone. I'm looking this back up on my phone. So I'm going to give you 5 chapters to look at. Some of them are whole chapters. Some of them are not. But it's not really that much. I've got most of them marked so we can kind of go through them. The first one is Acts 4. The overview is Peter and John get arrested, and they're going to speak to the council with Annas and Caiaphas. So that is kind of a biblical groundwork of dealing with authority in politics, right? Acts 5 is an interesting one that they put in there. It starts off with the Ananias and Sapphira, where they sell
the-
property,
yeah.
but they're not real
They're not-
honest about
yeah.
it. And I don't want to give away the ending, but it's kind of it's one of those ones where they stick it in. It's like, oh,
It's a goofy ending.
it is. Well,
It's like it
tragic.
takes some thought.
Yeah, it takes some thought into what's going on there, and God being the real authority.
Yeah.
Romans 13 is one that it's a short chapter of Romans, to be honest with you, compared to the rest of the book.
Yeah.
And that is the submit to the governmental authority. And
Yeah.
all government is placed or not necessarily ordained,
But
kind of put in
yeah,
place
like
by God.
our Christian duties towards the state, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
So with that being said, when we look at the Peter and Paul situation, the Peter and John situation, and then we see Romans where Paul's writing submit to authority, it's going to take a little bit of thought for you guys at home if you decide to look through these things. To kind of manage what they're saying in each. So do that. And I think it is. It's not something that's fighting. It's not a verse fighting another verse. You can see where basically God is the ultimate authority. You submit, but you don't
Neglect earthly authority.
Well, yes, or neglect your biblical world.
Yes.
So, and it's interesting. It's an interesting kind of contrast between Acts 4 and Romans 13. John 6, it just talks about Jesus is the bread of life. He is basically talking to the people about he is the authority.
Yeah.
And the Pharisees and Sadducees are getting really upset.
Really
with
upset,
him.
yeah.
Right. Again, if you look through, that verse doesn't seem to make sense with the other ones, but if you study it a little bit and pay attention, it really, really does.
Yeah.
Right. And then Matthew 22, paying taxes or rendering unto Caesar what is Caesar's.
Yeah.
And that's those are short sections actually in each one of those, but of those 2, 3, 4, 5 different chapters, what we've given you there, pay attention to. So what's going on? Excuse me. Those verses are Acts 4, Acts 5, Romans 13, John 6, and Matthew 22. So that is a kind of a interesting kind of scheme about the Bible and authority. And I think this is also important. We use the presidency, right?
Yeah.
But I think in local politics too.
Yeah, it applies
Right.
all the way down.
Right.
You know?
I'm going to, you get caught up a lot in Democrat and Republican and all this other stuff, but I'm going to look at like a local candidate, a commissioner, somebody who is in charge, right, of spending the county's money I'm going to look at that and go, well, do they share the same moral authority? Everything about life is covered in the Bible.
Yeah.
How you should spend your money, how you should organize your finances, all of those things, right? So if I'm looking at that, I need to pay attention to that as well. Going back to the John and Peter kind of arrested talking to them, right? I mean, if you look at that story, they left jail and they went right out and started preaching again.
Yeah.
And, the Pharisees and Sadducees kind of were like, you can't be doing this. And they were like, well, this is what we were put here to do, So it looks very kind of rebellious.
Yeah.
But it's not, because they were doing what God had told them to do. That doesn't seem popular, right?
Yeah.
I don't know in my lifetime where I've seen someone who was a politician so quickly dismissed because of their faith. That happens a lot now.
Yeah.
Do you notice that kind of thing?
It's pretty bad. I mean, just from the social media aspect, I feel like if you even, as soon as they'll say something about their faith, the entirety of everyone will just turn against them for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And it's wild because, for example, in Kentucky, I don't know his exact role. I think he's in the House of Representatives for Kentucky, but Nick Wilson, he voted on something because of his faith, right? He voted a certain way. Yeah. And the entirety of people on social media just started bashing him over it. I'm like, he just voted a certain way because that's what he believed.
Yeah, so it's difficult, right? When you look at and I happen to know John Schickel relatively well. He's really good friends with my aunt. I speak to him when I see him. We talk about some stuff, and he had the LGBTQIA plus. I can't remember all of the things, but whatever they were that had set up outside of his office.
Yeah.
And they were and they were really protesting. He was very peaceful, and most of the people were really, 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 really kind. They were just letting their opinions known, which is, again, one of the wonderful things that you can do in this country, as long as you don't rape and pillage and do those other things, right? But he said, we're trying to sign a bill that in his ideology is just protecting grade school kids.
Yeah.
Right. And the opposing opinion was, you are trying to suppress or oppress
these kids,
an entire section of people.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's weird, just the opinion of it is so different. But the next part of this that I want to talk about is, and don't say any names, do you have people that you interface with or are friends with who are Christian but don't share your view on some of the hard stand subjects?
I would say yes. On certain ones. Yes.
Now, what do you believe? How do you believe that that's possible?
Different interpretation of what we think the word is saying, even though I'm pretty I think what it says is what it says, right? And they'll I'd say the difference comes with trying to work around what it says to benefit what you want it to say. I would probably say more is where the bigger issues can come with that sort of thing.
So you're talking about maybe extrapolating a meaning.
Yeah, so
that is not a real
proven meaning, but it if you want it to mean that, you can make it mean that.
Yeah, I think there's. I think that's. I used to run around with some rough characters, and I still know most of these guys or whatever. And I used to have a buddy who would be like, "Eye for an eye, buddy. Eye for an eye." Right.
Yeah.
Even though Jesus said, "Well, but I say turn the other cheek." Right. So I think that there's things you're right. Yeah. There's things that you can interpret one way, and kind of extrapolate a meaning, or determine a meaning that is not the exact meaning.
Yeah.
I think this happens sometimes. I believe that those people are Christian.
Yeah.
I don't have any question about that. But the pressure of the world
gets in the way of
what? Because I mean, let's be honest, dude.
Yeah.
It is difficult to have a biblical worldview and apply it across all society. We're focusing on politics, right?
Yeah, but it's
really everything.
Yeah.
Right?
as a on the broader spectrum, it's much harder. And like, I feel like that's where a lot of those people will be like, well, I guess we can be more lenient on that comes from.
One of the excuses that I have used in the past, and I have since fixed this, like, well, the Bible says that, but look at the time period.
Yeah,
right?
that's a big one,
I'm not
too.
sure that's still, what does, guess what, buddy?
It still applies.
Right.
We've had this conversation on Wednesday nights.
It still applies. Yeah. Right. But ultimately, it's why people get so frustrated, I think, at like prosperity gospel and things like that, is because it's not biblical.
Yeah.
Because some of the fun things that your buddy are doing or your buddies are doing, you can't do because they're just black and white. They're wrong, right?
Yeah.
They're still wrong and right. As much as culture tries to gray the middle of black and white, they're still black and white. Now, are there some things that are very unclear in the Bible? Yeah, we did an eschatology series, dude. There's lots of unclear things, right? And I think that God did that with a purpose. He had a purpose for us to not fully understand exactly what time Jesus was going to get here and exactly what was going to go on and exactly what John was seeing at 90 years old on the island of Patmos, right? We kind of covered some of that. But when it comes to some other things, he's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Right. And I think approaching some of that from the standpoint of everyone sins and makes bad decisions and does things like that is probably the best way to do it. Do you stop being friends with someone who doesn't agree with you politically?
No.
Why?
I mean, why would I?
Well, that's a good question. I'm asking you.
Why would I stop being friends with someone just for something like that? I mean,
I don't think you should.
Exactly.
I was setting you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, people do that though.
Yeah, I know. Some people do. I don't get that. I mean, like, I get that you like want to. I don't know. I just find it hard to not be friends with someone in general. So I feel like
You are a pretty friendly, loving fella. So
now, yeah.
Well, I think you always were. I was just suppressed by video games and lack of sleep.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. Still lack of sleep, just not video games as much.
So, okay, so. How do you bridge a gap between let's throw an example out. So you've got some dead stops, I've got some dead stops. Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm just going to be honest on this podcast right now.
Yeah.
The minor attracted person, aka pedophile. I don't know that I could be friends with someone who doesn't share the opinion that I have on that particular subject. Okay. Yeah. Pretty much anything else I can navigate.
Yeah.
Mentally I can navigate that. I can't navigate that.
Yeah.
That's
tough. Yeah.
Probably I need to take a look and see how I would do that. I don't believe I know anybody.
Yeah. I don't think I do
that shares that opinion. And I'm not saying that is a pedophile or whatever or a minor attracted person. I just don't believe I know anybody or have talked to anybody that shares that. That would be one that is a hard stop. And unfortunately, in our world today, there's the potential for me to interface with somebody like that. Right? I don't understand it. I can't. I don't believe it's right. I don't believe that there's anything in here that says that it could potentially be okay. I mean, I don't know. So, I mean, I know there are other countries whose dating / marriage / age of whatever you want to call it is much lower than ours. I think there's some African countries that are pretty lenient on age of people getting married or whatever.
Yeah.
Still, I'm not on board. Right.
Yeah. Me
so that's one that's really a difficult one for me. Abortion is a difficult one.
Yes.
Especially when I interface. And again, I'm talking about was this somebody that I know who claims to be a Christian.
Yeah.
That has the opinion that baby's not a baby until X time.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, before I formed you in the womb,
yeah.
I knew you. You were beautifully, wonderfully made. There's lots of scriptures that lead me to believe that right.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not, for me, that too. It's not just scripture too. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it is for me.
That's the ultimate authority, obviously. But
No,
they tried to appeal to the worldly side of things to get around it, and I'm just like, well, I mean, look at the biology of it. You know, unique genetic code, never seen before, never will be seen again. Like, that's a unique being made by God.
Don't yell at me. I agree with you.
I know. I'm just saying, like, you know, that's like the argument I'll go with if they don't want to, even if they're Christian and they don't want to engage with the biblical argument.
Right.
But
that's the difficult part for me.
Yeah.
Right. But then again, I look back and I go, are there some things in the Bible that I struggle with that I don't know. You know, I think killing's wrong. I think, adultery's wrong. And I know that if you see a good looking girl and you have these thoughts and you're still doing, I get that. And I understand that. I don't necessarily believe that God hates all sin.
Yeah.
But loves everyone.
Yeah.
Right. So I try to remember that, and I try to be cognizant of that when I'm dealing with people. I just wish there was I kind of wish I was able to wrap my mind around their thought process.
Yeah.
And like I said, sometimes I think it's just I don't want to be, I don't want to be ostracized by a bunch of people, which we're going to be.
Yeah.
We had the church. I'm writing about it in the blog this week. The church in China with the two pastors, the house churches, the two pastors were fined and arrested and all sorts of other stuff, which is rough, right? Yeah. And I mean that, those kind of things happen here. So with those verses, getting kind of a backdrop of the biblical idea of government and authority. And again, you can argue that what the early church was dealing with was difficult, and it wasn't a point. At first, it wasn't that difficult because Rome basically was a polytheistic group. So they were like, oh, you Jews want to do this? That's fine. We'll just add one more. You know what I mean? And if you guys stay over there and don't give us a hard time, then we're going to pray to Athena and we're going to pray to Dionysus and all the other ones. Yeah. Then you'll be good, right? And I think I just used the Greek names for those. I think the Roman ones are it's Mars and Venus and
Neptune. They're planets, but they're the
right. Yeah. But so at first that was fine.
Yeah.
The problem came when Jesus showed up and said everybody can be in this. And then you had the Jewish religious leaders who were also like their elected officials decided they got really upset. So we see in the Bible, even during the early church, there is tension between what a Christ follower believes and the authority of state.
Yeah. Right.
So, I think that's like I said, those particular chapters are a pretty good example of that. What do you think is going to? And you don't have to say who you're voting for because I don't really ever ask anybody that. What is the most important thing leading up to 2024? As you're going to vote for, if you decide to, you have the opportunity to vote for president and a couple of state legislators or whatever. Yeah. What do you pay attention to?
I would say actually pay attention to the person, not just what they say. Like a lot of people,
character.
Yeah, a lot of people will just look at like, hey, I agree with all of this. That's good enough for me. But you need to look at the person too, and obviously you need to hear how they talk about those things, not that they just say they agree with them. You know what I mean? Because I think you can get some real opinion revealed based on the way they talk about something.
So here's something that just came to me. Okay. And I want to get your perspective on this. So I have a lot of people who will talk about the things someone has done.
Yeah.
Now, there's difference between a political record and just some of the things this dude's done in his past, right? I am going to tell you, if you were going to judge someone by the way they behaved in the past, you should never listen to a word I say.
Yeah.
That's 100%.
100%.
Yeah. And that is the truth. So as a Christ follower, how do I discern between this person's political record and the junk that they're dragging up from this person's past.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree with that. Yeah. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that applies to everyone. Like we talked about earlier, like we're all sinners.
We don't apply it
You
the
know,
same.
well, yeah,
right? And
yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Go ahead. But we all are
But like,
sinners.
like for all have sinned and fall short of the glory
Yeah,
of God.
of
Like
course.
we're all sinners. So I mean, that same thought process applies to anything you listen to. So
Now, if that's still going on, in
yeah,
that
then
person's
that's
personal life, right.
obviously that's a big issue still. But like
Right.
dragging something from 50 years ago,
Right.
That's where it's like,
Even a couple of years, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to think that someone's going to learn at some point, right? And I can't imagine that there's one person in all of that whole government up there that didn't do something really horrific
yeah,
when they were a teenager or a high schooler or in college or in their 20s or whatever. So I don't think that your past defines you at all. What we got kind of off subject. We got kind of off topic. So what do you look at? What kind of things are you looking at? What are you paying attention to? So the character of a person.
yeah.
Okay. What?
Obviously, policies are important. Like what they believe about certain things. Like we said that at the start.
Delivery.
Yeah,
I think
delivery
is important because
delivery's really important.
you can promise the world
Yeah,
and not
you-
deliver right.
Yeah. See what they've promised.
And you feel as a voter, and when someone says something that that aligns with my biblical worldview, and they're running on a campaign of this and this and this, and I'm like, that is okay. These 5 things are 5 of my dead stops, right? And I agree.
Yeah.
And then you get up there, and you just don't do any of the 5 of those. Then
Well,
I feel betrayed.
Yeah,
And
then you feel, it's like
Right.
they're saying these things that they're going to do. You agree with all of it, right?
Right.
Look at the
track record.
the political track record, and like, do they follow through on
I'm
what they say
hiccuping
they're
over here.
gonna
I'm
do?
yawning like a clown. Over
My
here.
voice is just going away.
Yeah,
I can feel it.
So, we'll kind of wrap up the political part. This first section in we'll call this the overview, I guess. With when Trump had the Bible and he was waving it around out in front of the Capitol, or the White House. I can't remember which one, whatever one it was, but he was doing it for a specific point. I had people who know that I work as a pastor at a church that would approach me and go, "What do you think about that?" It's like, "What do you mean?" Like, Trump says his favorite book's the Bible. I said, "Listen, I can't say that it's not. I hope that it is.
Yeah.
And I hope that he opens it up and he reads it more often.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, let's just be honest. I do think that, like I said, we're talking about the track record and personal accountability and things like that are important for who we as Christians want to support if we so choose to do so. Although I do think that there is penance for the things. There's God's going to absolve you of all sin if you ask him to do so, if you accept Jesus Christ, the gospel message, right? But he never said, I'm going to protect you from the punishment, right? He's going to protect you from death and hell. The punishment you get for the things that you did, sometimes I think, and again, we can back this up scripturally, he's going to go ahead and let you live through that because he's going to use that later, or he's going to, you know what I mean? He's going to, he may know that's the only way. And I feel like this personally, sometimes he lets me go through those things because he knows that's really the only way I'm going to learn.
Yeah.
Right. If he just said, well, I'm going to protect you from this, I'm going to probably continue to still do stupid
then you
things.
continue to be.
Right. So, what do you say about that?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I would agree with that. I mean, how can you really have a change of heart and a change of mind if you're not going to still...
And you're still doing it,
Yeah. So...
You still continue down the same path. Yeah. And again, I mean, all conspiracies aside, politics is a strange beast.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with everybody that's listening. People's ages, I'm being serious, are really starting to affect who I like and who I don't.
Yeah, me too.
And that's probably not I just feel like I've been forced into that corner
Yeah.
at this point. I would like somebody around 60 who's around, maybe not retirement age.
Yeah.
Or old person's home age. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Biden's 84 years old, dude.
Yeah.
He hasn't worked ever, really,
Yeah.
in politics for 40 years. And I'm not picking on him.
Yeah,
He's
but-
just too old. Trump is getting
I know.
old.
He's getting old too. Yeah. And
he looks relatively healthy, but still, isn't there any 60-year-olds that we think are capable of doing that job? Or younger.
that's what I would be. That's one of my bigger things.
I'd be interested to talk to a large group of 20-year-olds blindly, not you specifically, because I know you.
Yeah.
But just blind ask, like, what are the? I wonder how much age would come up. I think it would come up.
I think it would come up a lot. Yeah.
And it's just, again, we're just talking about stuff. We're trying to tie some stuff that's happening in culture to the Bible. It's not that hard. There's plenty in here about it. There's actually a whole lot of other kind of like sections of verses that talk about this kind of stuff too. But I wanted to lay kind of some groundwork. We're going to pick some specific topics, and we're going to discuss those things. It's going to probably get a little hairy, but that's what we like to do, and we want to do things like I said biblically. We are not here to sway anyone's opinion politically, one way or the other. Honestly, besides paying taxes and getting real frustrated at the news, I don't really have a dog in the fight at this point.
Yeah.
So, and you say that, but I want to protect freedom. I want to protect kids. I want to protect all of those things. And I want to protect that for every single person.
Every single person. Yeah.
The old people, the people on death row, the unborn, all of those things. I want them to have freedom, and I want them to be able to sit in the room and talk about this stuff if they want to, and those kind of things. So, pretty good. What do we got going on at church?
Well, they're at World Changers this week. They'll be getting back Saturday in a
Pretty
few
large
days.
group, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it was pretty big.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it seemed like it. I know Jeff and Elo and Jonathan.
Jonathan, Devin.
Oh, Devin go?
Devin went.
Nice.
Isaac went. A lot of
Isaac.
Ramsey.
Isaac told me, I was like,
bro,
you can't walk.
They need to put him on like paint or something.
Yeah. He's like,
He's going.
Which,
Chip's going.
We're picking on Isaac, but
Yeah.
good on him for not even having fully recovered from a knee
he's-
operation.
yeah.
He's still wanting to go and work, which is
Good
awesome.
for him,
Which
yeah.
is awesome. Excuse me. What else we got going on? Lots of stuff's warm. We got a lot of fall things coming up. The schedule for August July's so packed, dude.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I can't remember everything. It seems like every couple days we have something going on here, which is really awesome.
Oh, July 23rd. Upward registration's gonna open.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
nice. You were involved. Brett is involved.
Yeah.
Dan and Carl still helping out there.
We got
who else is
Jeff Rayford, and we've got a new member of the group going on here.
Who we got?
Kurt Curley.
Kurt Curley.
Yeah.
I don't know him, but I like his name.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I got to meet him the other day. He seems like a good fit for the team, so
That's
we're
awesome.
gonna bring him in to
And
help
we can
us do
say
some
Rayford's
stuff.
last name now because
Yeah.
we weren't sure if it was him or Jeff Hudgens. So now we're sure.
We're
that it's
positive,
Jeff Rayford.
100% Jeff.
And if you ever met the two, you'd be surprised that we could get them confused. So,
Yeah.
but come check us out here at church. If you have any questions, anything that you'd like to bring up during this topic, please put it in the notes. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in. We did find out, because I am technologically inept, would be the best term, is the more you comment and the more you like a podcast, even if like Riley or I share it, then the better our algorithm is, right?
Yeah. So basically,
I sounded all technical there
if
for a
you're
second,
watching, we get texts about it, right? Like people who will like ask us a question or have something to say about what we said. It's better for the reach if you put that in the comments.
Still text me.
Still text us. Yeah.
and Riley, but
But
put it in the comments,
too.
and then something. But this is something I think people might. People might bring up something that we hadn't thought of.
Yeah, and
when it comes to biblical worldview versus politics, you get into some science stuff.
Yeah.
Right? We talked about that. We might get into some science things, right? weaponry. War.
Yeah,
I mean,
war's a big.
Dude,
Yeah.
trust me, I can do 7 podcasts on my opinion of the industrial war complex, being in the military, and now being a 47-year-old guy watching all these things happen, understanding how money is transferred from person to person. We can do that if you'd like to. It may bore half of you to death, but you know, if that's something that you want, put it in there, and we'll try to attack it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the same thing. Like we've said before, like, hey, if you have a topic idea, put it in the comments, and I'll get a text about it. Like, come on, we read the comments too. So like, put it in the comments. You can still text me, but comment it so we can.
It's helpful.
Yeah,
it's helpful to us.
Helpful for us, and helpful for other people watching because they get to engage with what you're saying as well.
Well, and I mean, not to be what would it be? Greedy about it, but it also probably would help our sponsors.
Yeah,
you know,
it'd help them.
You know, they're going to get a little more exposure the more people kind of this gets in front of. But I don't know if you guys have watched on YouTube, but the front page with your face and my face on it and me doing the little cartoon body is probably my favorite thing. And I guess I like so many of them. I go through and like them. And then watch them usually on YouTube because I like the format better. And I put on my big TV. It pops up it's one of the first suggestions that I get, so it's pretty cool. So, and we do not control the advertising.
No,
on YouTube. I want to make a disclaimer: we do not get a say. So whatever pops up, it is not the church that has decided that. So I'll praise out. All right, Lord, we just thank you so much for this opportunity to just come together. Lord, help us to just explore this topic in a biblical way, and help my personal opinions and Riley's personal opinions just kind of stay out of the way. Lord, hopefully we can just help somebody along the way, and not even just help them figure out who they like, but just help them just kind of understand that everybody's going through this process together as Christ followers, and just trying to make some sense of the separation that we have between, you know, the politics and our biblical worldviews, and how to kind of manage some of those. And we just thank you for your son, Jesus. We thank you the way you keep blessing our church. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.